Welcome to the People's Candidate Forum. Joining us now is political, business, and financial consultant Marlene Topper, candidate for Congress in District 15. Thank you for your interest in representing this community. Let's begin. I will start off with an icebreaker question. Please share a 1 or 2 word intention you hold for today's interview.
Back to basics.
Thank you.
First question is, the South Bronx has been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak. With public health officials forecasting a potential second wave, what will you do if you are hired to respond to this ongoing crisis?
Well, the South Bronx at this point in time has been affected by the coronavirus 2-to-1. The masks are very effective in protecting us from obviously obtaining. The masks that Mayor de Blasio ordered from a company in New York City that is being given out to NYCHA residents does not protect you. It's a one-size-fits-all. So if you're a woman who's 135 pounds and 5'5", the mask drops off your face. If you're a guy that has a little bit of husk or it's too tight for your face. It doesn't have elasticity. If it had elasticity, it would be able to work. So a lot of people are walking around in the South Bronx and they're not intentionally disobeying, but the mask is too long. Second of all, as you know, I've done budget. I've worked for government, city, state, federal level. So budget lines have to be included. New York City is one municipality. So that means what's given to Park Avenue is supposed to be given to the South Bronx. It's not fair that Lincoln did not receive the appropriate amount of PPE. My mother's an infection control specialist, and she says before this, when you go from patient to patient, everything came off and went into the garbage. These people at Lincoln were wearing the same thing for 2 days. So if you had disease A and you didn't have disease B, what happened was you might have picked up in the hospital A, B, C, D. The second thing is the NYCHA, a lot of people who are dying are from NYCHA. And they're dying not because they have diabetes and high blood pressure. They're dying because they're slowly being poisoned because the pipes have lead in them. So that's an underlying condition which doesn't allow them to fight like other people. And it's very sad because it's a very simple fix until we can change all the buildings is by putting filters on the kitchen taps so the water that they're using to cook and drink will have at least 70% of the particles. But I would make sure on the line items that the hospitals received the appropriate amount of money, which in this case would go to the governor and then trickle down, and Trump purposely punished us.
Thank you very much.
In regards to criminal justice reform and jails, Congressman Jose Serrano has stood with a large contingent of community members who oppose the city's plan to build a new jail in Mott Haven. What is your position on this plan, which would put the new jail on a plot of land already earmarked by the community for an affordable housing development? And what have you done or what will you do to advance your position on this?
Okay, so for years, from the time Ruben Diaz Jr. was an assemblyman, I've explained, and on another interview I've explained, I'm torn. You have most of these people being arrested are from low-income families, or their families do not have the ability to hire counsel. So they're using a public defender to take care of them. This defender is a lawyer like anyone else. She has rules to follow, and the only way she can take care of her client is being able to meet with them on a regular basis to build a proper defense. Most attorneys do not want to go on to Rikers Island. Rikers Island is always shutting down. They close it. I've been closed on Rikers Island. I can't even tell you for how many times. Sometimes it's for a half hour. Sometimes it's for 4 hours when they shut down. That means if an attorney comes on at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning and they shut down, court starts back normally at 2 o'clock. 1 to 2 is the break. That attorney can be sanctioned if it happens too many times for not returning to court for the cases that are on the calendar. But statistically, the people who have been in jails, not on Rikers, met with their attorneys on a regular basis and have less convictions because the attorneys were actually able to work with them, take the information, bring it back, research, and come back and forth. So they had an actual dialogue going on. So when they went to court, they were represented in the best way.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a quick hitter question. Please complete the following sentence. Today I will make the world.
Today I will make the world a safer place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is about public housing. Residents of NYCHA have been facing deplorable conditions for decades due to federal underfunding. What will you do to fix public housing with less public funding available than ever because of the current economic crisis?
Okay, well, I've worked at City Hall for a long time, and I've run for City Council, and also I've worked as a consultant for several council members. NYCHA has mismanaged the money. There's a percentage of apartments that are empty, and the budget is not being done accordingly. We're paying $1,000 to $1,500 a night for homeless people when we could fix those apartments and place them into those homeless people into apartments. Secondly, the federal government has come in already to tell NYCHA that HUD, who gives the funds for all housing throughout the United States, has come in and said that NYCHA here in New York City was misallocating the money. It's egregious. You have mold, you have asbestos, and you have lead. Last year, there were several lawsuits that were brought against the city because children under 6 were found with high levels of lead in their bodies. And we all know that our brains don't form till we're 25 years old. So if you have a newborn's baby is mush. It's like cotton. You're putting lead into this person. And then you're giving it a state exam at 3rd grade, and you're saying that you know this person's going to go to prison. But however, you are technically slowing them down and poisoning them. So they don't have the ability on the same level in certain businesses. The venom, the feces from those it's ridiculous. It's in the air. It's just poison everywhere. The South Bronx has 700,000 kids with asthma. It's unacceptable. 2 to 1 for the rest of the city, 6 to 1 for the rest of the country.
Thank you.
Let's talk about affordable housing. Who is it really affordable for? Community members have embraced community land trusts, which in theory would take property off the speculative real estate market to develop deeply affordable housing. What specific actions will you take to ensure housing and home ownership for the people of our community?
I would attempt to pass legislation that would block a certain amount of land federally for low-income housing. De Blasio said he was establishing low-income housing. That's not low-income housing if you've gone on there. They have apartments where you need $200,000 income to be able to obtain it. What's being built in the South Bronx, if you notice, and I'm not against anyone, but these apartments are very, very expensive. Gentrification is taking place, and the people who are poor, who don't even live in NYCHA, who live in other buildings or tenements, are going to be priced out, like other areas that has happened in Queens, Long Island City, and Astoria, Brooklyn, Park Slope, Clinton Hills. The same thing is coming to the South Bronx, and it's starting by the courthouses. And it's absolutely ridiculous because people are entitled by the Constitution a place to live. They're entitled to a home. And we are not providing that.
Thank you. A majority of the creative workers, the workforce, artists in all disciplines are freelancers and or seasonal workers. COVID-19 has resulted in a dramatic loss of income for them. What would you do to help creative workers overcome those challenges?
Well, I don't agree with the federal bill that was put together in the first place. It has corporate bailouts. Small business owners and people I've helped go into business have filled out multiple applications. They can't obtain funding. They're going under. The whole allocation is ridiculous. People who make over $1 million are getting more money than people who make 100,000. Actually, it cuts off at around 80,000. You won't get the $1,200. Then most people know if you have an 18-year-old to 21-year-old, they're normally still at home. But the government doesn't give you the additional $500 for that 18 or 19-year-old who's in college or who's at home. It's ridiculous, and it should be done per capita. You can't expect a person in New York City to be given the same amount of money as somebody in Kentucky or in a rural area.
Thank you.
$1,200 for 10 weeks is ridiculous.
Thank you. The next question is about small business. Small businesses in the 15th district were already hurting because of rent hikes, the influx of big box stores, and online sales. Now, with the latest crises, COVID and looting, they have fallen further behind. What would you do to restart small business and promote entrepreneurship in our district?
Well, I look back to the leadership under Christine Quinn. Christine Quinn stopped Walmart from coming in, and she stopped a lot of big box stores from coming in, because in the United States, small businesses are the ones who employ the majority of people. And it is extremely important that we keep these small businesses going, these families, the entrepreneurship. And I would go back to the zoning. We have to change back to the zoning and stop. Under this speaker, he's allowed this to happen. And after the riot now, I've spoken to some kids last week when I was told on Thursday when I was campaigning, get out of the area, they're gonna riot, they're gonna riot. And I decided to go into the basketball court and talk to them. They were polite because they saw the button running for Congress. And I said, what's the purpose of beating up a store and burning down a store that you have to go buy food at, or your mom has to go buy food at? You're gonna make her have to pay for a cab? She can't afford to pay for a cab to go to another community to buy food. I said, protest, 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 but don't destroy. It doesn't make sense, because those people aren't the ones, these small business owners aren't the ones who are causing these issues.
Thank you. The next question is, how specifically would you provide teeth to the community-driven solutions that have been articulated over the years by many of the organizations hosting this forum and others you have recently engaged?
Well, one of the problems is you need training programs. You need middle-class jobs. You need training programs that bring middle-class jobs. For example, BOCES. It teaches you to become an LPN. It teaches you to become a sonographer. It teaches you jobs that allow you to build, to go on to having a future. We also need apprenticeships, bringing in the local unions, Local 1, electricians, plumbers, welders, carpenters. We have strong youth. Once given the opportunity, they can be part of one of these apprenticeships and then go on to, after 5 or 6 years, they're making 6 figures.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Sorry, thank you. Please answer a yes or no to this question. Do you think drug use is a criminal justice concern?
Yes.
As our representative, how will you make sure your federal leverage addresses the South Bronx's vulnerability to the impacts of climate change?
Well, one of the things that are really important, especially being that the Trump administration and Republicans don't seem to think that the environment matters, but you have to have the ability to negotiate and to talk with other individuals and explain the circumstances. And I believe that when you have people like that, and I'm that way, from professional teaching as a mediator, I would be able to obtain the resources to help the Bronx. I also have a corporate background. I would also do partnerships with government where corporations have the ability to come in and fix. And it's a majority minority district, so they can write they can write it off on their taxes. So those are important partnerships, like I'm doing right now, feeding people in the district. It's through corporate partnerships.
Thank you, Marlene. To wrap up our People's Candidate Forum today, how would you articulate a set of planning principles that will guide development that will serve to both preserve and grow the district? And how would you include the community in the adoption of those principles?
Well, first thing is, the most important thing is to have forums, like the city council does. They have forums on how to spend their capital budget. You need to have one or two forums to explain it initially to the people so they understand, and then have another forum where they can come back after you've given out information and give their input on how they think money should be dispersed or what should be the priority. It's their community. And quality of life is the most important, because if you're not living somewhere safe, if you're not having fresh water, if you don't have a good job where you can take care of your family, you're going to have mental illness. You're going to become depressed. So the community has to feel welcomed, and they have to feel as though someone's listening to them.
Thank you.
And I don't believe they feel that way right now.
Thank you. This last question is a yes or no. Before today, had you taken a pledge against taking money from big corporations like real estate developers and other special interests?
Well, I'm a poor candidate, so I have a grassroots campaign running. So I'm hardly making it. I've made it because I've walked and knocked doors for the whole time. I even did it with a hazmat suit.
Is that a yes or no, just for clarity?
Okay, sorry. No, I haven't taken any corporate money.
And
Thank
you
you.
not to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest in serving as the next congressperson in District 15. The people of the district will make a decision on June 23rd. Be well and stay safe. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.